Coming up on KCCI 8 News Close Up. After nearly 2 decades at the Kennedy Center, Monica Holt found her next act in Iowa.
What I saw was another anchor community institution that believed in the power of the arts.
Now, more than 6 months into the job, the new president and CEO of the Des Moines Performing Arts is hitting her mark.
I say every day I feel so lucky to be walking into this organization.
Her vision for expanding access, growing audiences, and building stronger communities.
What can this building mean beyond the 7 p.m. curtain?
And plans to continue putting Broadway in the spotlight.
We've established a great history here of really bringing New York to Des Moines.
You're watching KCCI 8 News Close Up.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us for KCCI 8 News Close Up. I'm Chief Political Reporter Amanda Rooker. Well, last summer, former Des Moines Performing Arts President and CEO Jeff Chelsvig announced his retirement after leading the organization for 30 years. In January, his successor stepped into the role. Prior to coming to Des Moines, Monica Holt spent 16 years in leadership roles at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. I sat down with her to talk about her plans to expand access to the arts and why she believes they matter to communities across Iowa. Well, we're here with Monica Holt, the president and CEO of the Des Moines Performing Arts Center. Thanks so much for joining us.
Amanda, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Well, before you came to Central Iowa, you spent 16 years in Washington, D.C., leading the Kennedy Center. What made this the right opportunity for you to come to Des Moines?
You know, my time in DC was so special. I grew up outside the city and I went to school in Virginia. And so coming to the Kennedy Center and spending 16 formative years there was such an important foundational part of simply my arts education. And I think as I was learning there and growing, surrounded by so many great mentors and folks to answer all of my questions, I was really being imbued with just the sense of how important the arts are to building strong, healthy communities. And that work has stayed with me ever since. You know, when I left the Kennedy Center, I was overseeing all of our artistic programs, our production, our orchestra for the Opera House. And so I had this exposure to all of these different wonderful arts leaders and artists. And when this opportunity came up, what I saw was another anchor community institution that believed in the power of the arts, that understood its values and how it wanted to tie its audiences to arts experiences. And that was an opportunity that I couldn't turn down. Certainly when I came to visit for the first time, I was in awe of how committed Des Moines is to arts and culture, and really how committed all of Central Iowa has been to all of our artists and organizations here.
Might surprise people. There are a lot of people who may wonder, DC to Iowa, what a change. What's that transition been like for you?
For me, it's truly been wonderful. I think, you know, my team probably thinks I have some sort of Pollyanna chip in my brain. But I say every day, I feel so lucky to be walking into this organization. You know, I'm coming in after a leader who did such beautiful work for 30 years, creating this strong foundation for an organization, and also at a moment of great opportunity. We're going to celebrate our 50th anniversary in 2029, which I know is hard for some people to believe, but it's there. And that just feels like a springboard into what that next chapter can be. And the folks here that I've been able to talk to in these first 7 months, learning from, answering my questions, hearing about what interests them, we're all kind of creating together what that next chapter looks like. And it's a real privilege to be part of the stewardship of what happens.
You talked a little bit about your experience in Washington. How does that translate to the leader you are here? How did that experience there shape the type of leader that you are?
You know, my time in Washington, as I mentioned, I really tried to use my time at the Kennedy Center as much as professional growth as just feeding and fueling my own curiosity. I was so lucky that when I asked questions, I either got answers or I got folks who said, I don't know, but let's figure out the answer to that question together. And that impulse for lifelong learning, for ongoing questioning and wondering what else is possible, that's something that I've carried directly in here. That, of course, makes sense, right? I'm new to the area, new to the organization, new to the Midwest. To come in and come in with answers only, I think would be a disservice to not just myself or our team, but also the possibilities of what this organization can continue to grow into. And so to be able to come here and that same embrace of asking questions and fueling for the future, I found in the DMPA staff and in all of these community conversations I've been having. And I think folks are waiting for me to say how different it feels, and certainly, on its level, the traffic is much better here. I've talked already before, I love our airport. It's, the ease of being here is wonderful, but a lot of the spirit is the same in terms of moving from one arts organization to another. If those foundational principles about what art can make possible are there, you have a lot of cohesion between the work that you're doing. And I feel really lucky that that's absolutely been true here.
Coming up next, Holt shares how her love for theater began and why she says the previous leader of DMPA set the organization up for success for years to come.
Welcome back to KCCI 8 News Close Up. Our conversation with Des Moines Performing Arts CEO Monica Holt continues. She reflects on following a leader who spent 30 years shaping Des Moines Performing Arts.
And when I talk about the foundation that we come into, that creates a foundation of opportunity.
And how a childhood love of music and theater led to a career shaping the arts.
Growing up for you, what first sparked your first love of the arts?
Yeah, I'm a theater kid through and through. I was memorizing all the words to Les Mis for no one but me in my bedroom, when I was growing up, and I really just loved kind of going on the musical adventure that all of the different cast recordings of both contemporary musicals of kind of our time growing up, but also of musicals from the Golden Age. I remember spending, when I was at my grandparents' house, they lived outside of New York and New Jersey, so they took me and my sister to our first Broadway show. But I remember sitting on the linoleum floor in their living room and, taking out the Sound of Music record and putting it on the record player for the first time, and just sitting there cross-legged for hours at a time, both watching the mechanism of a record player work, which I was less familiar with, but just enjoying the music. And that sticks with me through and through. I was also really lucky that my education growing up included arts in my schools. So music was always a part of my life. It had been a part of my parents' life, a part of their parents' life. And that's a really fortunate thing, where that access is there from day one, as it was for me. And I think as I've grown and into this field and have the opportunity now to make sure that we can be providing that same level of access to as many kids as possible, I often am reflecting back on how I was introduced to the art and how can we make that possible for as many kids every day as we can. So that's really continued to be a charge and a through line for me.
Absolutely. You mentioned Jeff Chelsvig and what he did for this organization with 30 years of leadership. What stands out to you about what he built? What do you hope to build on to that?
Sure, that is a great question, and one I have obviously been thinking about frequently. I am really lucky to be walking into an organization that was so well cared for. Des Moines Performing Arts understood not only what the possibilities were when Jeff was walking in, but then what he worked so hard to create with the community. And that really centers on the Willis Broadway series, which we know is critical not just to the economic impact of downtown Des Moines, but also to the quality of life for all of the folks living in central Iowa, as well as our strong education programs. Those were two pillars that he and the team here built out. And when I talk about the foundation that we come into, that creates a foundation of opportunity. There are a lot of arts organizations right now who might not be able to be thinking 5-10 years in the future because they're thinking about next week. You know, this building has been very well cared for, and some of those more urgent issues that other buildings where maintenance had been deferred or other projects have been prioritized could have been a more complicated entry point. And instead, what the team has really created is a space to walk in and look at opportunity. I don't take that for granted, but I do think there's a lot for us to consider. I think that idea of what a cornerstone cultural institution can be for a city, for a state, for a region, even for a country, that is of critical importance, particularly when we ask the community what they need. How can we be of service? The shows will be here. We want to keep bringing the best art and new perspectives and exciting moments of collaboration to our stage. But we also want to know, how can we enliven our spaces to keep inviting in and welcoming new audiences? What can this building mean beyond the 7 p.m. curtain when we're looking at a 10 a.m. music class? Or, you know, yesterday we had our story time under the green umbrella on Cole's Commons. We had 60 kids there listening to stories outside on a summer day. And it's those moments that bring us to that connection. How theaters, how performing arts centers are custom built to bring together both close-knit communities and complete strangers, and from them create that shared experience that we know is so important in our quality of life.
When we come back, how the arts fuel everything from community to economic growth in Iowa's future. Stay with us.
for me, feeling that impact in the connection that's created when an audience sits down, an artist starts performing, and suddenly there's a wash of calm or maybe a stir of excitement that everyone is feeling together.
The leader of Des Moines Performing Arts says the theater experience is more than just taking in a show, it's bringing together a community. Our conversation with President and CEO Monica Holt continues.
On Close Up, we often talk a lot about policy, in part because policy shapes communities. Thinking about the communities that Des Moines Performing Arts serves, what role do you see art playing in shaping Iowa's future?
I love that question because the answer is, the arts are for everyone, no matter at what stage of life they're at. And the impact they have goes beyond that performance moment, right? We know that engaging with arts is good for your well-being. It's good for your mental health. Coming out of this moment, this epidemic of loneliness that we've seen particularly in the past 6 years, but certainly that was always going to happen as we move towards devices and a lot of personalization. Having the arts be a touchstone for how we reconnect with each other is critical. We're lucky that we can talk about that hand in hand with the $50 million of economic impact that the Willis Broadway series has for Greater Des Moines. But for me, feeling that impact in the connection that's created when an audience sits down, an artist starts performing, and suddenly there's a wash of calm or maybe a stir of excitement that everyone is feeling together, that when they leave the auditorium, they have a sense of community. Those are all things that create a vibrant and a rich atmosphere.
What role do the arts in this community in central Iowa play in the economic fabric of our state?
It's a great question and an important one. I mentioned that the Willis Broadway series is responsible for about $50 million of economic impact. That's folks buying tickets, that's folks going to dinner before a show or the hotel rooms. That includes all of the tours that are coming through are bringing sometimes returning, but sometimes first-time visitors to Des Moines, Iowa, and the way we take care of them reflects on the city as well, because then they're going across the country and talking about their experiences. So the combining factor of both the economic impact as well as the reputational impact, I think is huge, and we have this unique space to be reaching all corners of who can feel like they belong in Iowa. I'm really proud that through all of our work, we also reach all 99 counties of the state. And so I think while we often think about that economic impact locally, I also see how we're growing the future, how through arts education, we're creating the future workforce of innovators, of thought leaders, and of folks who can be champions not just for the arts, but for what a full, vibrant life looks like.
I think a lot of people hear DMPA and think the Willis Broadway series, but what is some of that work that the organization is involved with in all 99 counties?
I think of our programming in a few different general areas. So one is when you think about the work that we do in this building, a lot of that, yes, we have the Willis Broadway series, our incredible dance series, National Geographic, other series that bring folks in really from across the state to come to visit us. That includes our Applause program, which offers $1 tickets for student matinees, and that has field trips from schools coming in several hours away to enjoy performances here. That's a really critical part about how we make sure folks feel like they belong in spaces like the Civic Center, and that is foundational to all of the other work we do. Because the other pieces are also us reaching out. So instead of inviting folks here, how can we bring art into people's lives, meet them where they are? That includes things like our summer series this summer, the Hy-Vee Summer Art Series, where we're in parks across Greater Des Moines, bringing art and experiences for free to families. It also includes our Iowa High School Musical Theater Awards, which are in over 100 schools across the state.
Thinking about arts education and young people, what can young people gain from the arts that they can't necessarily gain from watching entertainment on a screen?
I'm so glad you asked that. Arts education is education for life. That's the truth of it. And when I think about a kid who finds his tribe for the first time at school, who finds a group of people that he feels safe with and trusted and surrounded by, or someone who can walk into a space with confidence because of what they've learned from their theater class or from being on stage in a musical in elementary school. All of those things add up to the whole human who has life experience when they're moving out of a school setting. I think in a lot of ways, arts education teaches kids from a young age about curiosity and creativity, and perhaps most importantly, collaboration, and what it means to really take a village to create a piece of art. And while not every kid will end up being an artist, although I would be thrilled if everyone was, that's really not the point. The point is that those skills, that confidence building, those leadership skills, my goodness, those communication skills, those are skills that then set kids up to be even more successful in whatever pursuit they have in life, whatever their passion may be. The music education piece is also really key to that. You know, kids who are involved in music early on, we know that that helps settle the mind and anxiety. It helps prevent and treat really depression and things that we know our kids are facing every day. Having an outlet of creativity of any kind is always going to increase the quality of life for children, but it's also creating the building blocks for who they're going to become and what comes next.
Still to come on Close Up, how Des Moines Performing Arts balances Broadway favorites with bold new work and their vision for making the arts more accessible and community-centered. Going back to the Willis Broadway series, is part of your role helping select and choose what shows come to Des Moines? And so how do you think through that when you're trying to select the array of different shows? How do you think through that process? What types of shows are you looking for?
Yeah, so one of the great privileges of this role is working really closely with the Broadway community as shows are going out on tour. And I like to remind folks, these are tours direct from New York. You know, we've established a great history here of really bringing New York to Des Moines. And the shows have only continued to increase in quality in terms of the touring productions. It's a very different climate now than it was 30 years ago, and those touring productions are just a critical piece of that broader Broadway ecosystem. When I am having those conversations, I'm looking for a few things. One is that our community and the trust and loyalty that has been built around the Willis Broadway series, that continued choice to keep coming back and seeing what's on the season, is what allows us to have the opportunity to choose what we bring here. So it really is this pair of our decision making with our audiences and what they are looking for. I'm really keen to bring new art that's being made. I think right now, the more that we can support new artists, new ideas, new music is wonderful. I like to think about how we make sure each season has a good mix. You know, something for everyone is a tough sell sometimes. You know, people think that that might not be true, but as even I look ahead to this season, there really is the idea that you might not know about every show before you walk in the door. And that's okay, because you'll leave feeling something. And whether what you're feeling is inspired or awe or even questioning, that still makes that a valuable experience to have had and to have had together in this audience. I think that the other piece is making sure that we're bringing folks reminders of the history that built Broadway. So we have these great revivals on Broadway right now, and making sure that those are part of the story we're telling too, so that everyone, no matter if it's their first season or their 30th, feels like they are being included and like they belong in the conversation and in the engagement happening around them.
Looking ahead, if we were talking 10 years from now, what would success look like to you?
Success to me is creating more opportunities for people to connect through our work. Where I want that to be true in 10 years, but in honesty, I want that to be true in 2 or 3 years as well. As I'm looking around and as our team is really thinking about some of the feedback we've gotten from the community in these first 7 months and some of their own ideas and aspirations for what comes next, a lot of that has to do with creating even more access points, not just for the shows, but for use of our building and Coles Commons, and for how we can create more opportunities for people to come together in that, you know, collective effervescence moment that we love to have around art and music and joy, really. I think we are a town that really knows what that feels like when we're sitting in the audience together. I think that there are opportunities at every street corner where we can be a part of that story and really help ourselves by partnering with as many people as possible to create those moments.
And finally, what's one thing that you hope the viewers take away understanding about Des Moines Performing Arts?
Des Moines Performing Arts is here not just to bring you the best of entertainment from around the country and from your local artists, but it's also here to help you find each other and to help us all be together as a community looking at our future. I really hope that folks see us not just as a venue, which is incredibly important, but also as a collaborator for what we want to build and for increasing that joy and quality of life that we want, not just here in Greater Des Moines, but across all of Iowa and the Midwest. And that's an aspiration that I really hope and plan for us to live up to.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Amanda.
And thank you for joining us for KCCI 8 News Close Up. We'll see you back here next Sunday. Have a great day.